for another edition of the amazing world's greatest divorce podcast, the I Just Want This Done Divorce podcast. Apparently, one of our platforms has dropped out, making sure we're live streaming everywhere. Or we're having trouble on Facebook. Well, sorry, folks, I can't fix that live. You're just going to have to watch the show next week. So
Or hop on YouTube, hop on YouTube.
YouTube, on X, and on the Riverside platform. We are live streaming as we speak. So you're getting this straight from the horse's mouth, and no editing whatsoever. We are working without a nut. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. So yet another edition of the I Just Want This Done Divorce podcast, episode 65. Oh, that's not the right one. We want the applause, not brother. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. So here we want to celebrate episode 65. Not that one. I need a better guy on the soundboard. All right. We are broadcast professionals, despite this appearing otherwise. So we got a fully loaded show today. This is a total no AI podcast. And in previous shows, we've had AI kind of help us try to structure a little bit of it and help us with the outline. We're going back to old school here because we didn't think it was funny enough. So
That's right.
we're pulling up some stuff that we think is more our vibe. And it was only a few episodes, but we're kind of let's go back to the way we did it and try that. So we're gonna see how this goes. So we got some great stories today. So we got a tech billionaire paying a ton of money to ex-wife and South Korea's divorce of the century. Jelly Roll and Bunny XO. So we always like our Jelly Roll Bunny XO follow-up that we promise we follow up with these things. And then there's a celebrity divorce lawyer prediction, and we'll talk about that. It's the celebrity divorce lawyer you kind of know and love. He's all over social media, and we'll talk about him. It's you'll see when we get there. Martha Stewart. Now you thought, what's up with Martha Stewart? I did too. Well, she's throwing shade, and we're going to find out what that's all about. Another Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt divorce follow-up, and kind of some don'ts that you might learn from that. Then a Shameless star, Emily Rossum, talks about her situation. Then Rahul's going to talk a little bit about former supermodel. Or are you a former supermodel? Is it like being in the Marine Corps? Once you're a supermodel, always a supermodel.
Right. Yeah.
So Christy Brinkley, supermodel from my generation, ladies and gentlemen. When I was in high school, people had her poster inside their lockers. And we're going to talk about Christy Brinkley and her rethinking things. We're going to get deep into that. We have a listener question that's from our private Facebook group and the viral 6'7" dating trend. This story dates from April, but we found this and we think it's worth talking about. So let's jump right into this. Tell us about the tech billionaire.
Yes, buckle up, folks. So we're moving on to South Korea here. South Korean news. Tech billionaire, according to this Fox Business News article, was ordered to pay $645 million in Korean won to his ex-wife in South Korea as what they've labeled divorce of the century.
Okay.
And it was so this South Korean court, according to this article, ordered SK Group chairman. So the name of this conglomerate is SK Group, and that
side note, this is a giant manufacturing multinational.
Yes.
All kinds of different things. Chip production. I'm just looking it up. Textiles. All kinds of different manufacturing.
Right, exactly. And so this high court in Seoul is the capital of South Korea.
And telecom, excuse me.
And telecom, yes. Or ruled on Friday. So this was from July 24th. So whatever the Friday right before July 24th was, that he must pay his ex-wife 944 billion won, spelled WON, which is about 645 million USD. And this was yes, that's right. That's gonna hurt. Marking the divorce asset award in the largest in South Korean history, they say. So I guess they're saying, yeah. Exactly. They're saying that this payout, though, was substantially lower than the 1.38 trillion, so almost $1 billion USD, awarded by an appeals court in 2024. But the revised judgment has renewed investor scrutiny. So I guess what happened was he may have appealed it, and they came back with a lower award. And this also is, of course, renewing the scrutiny by investors because this is a publicly traded company.
Makes
The
sense.
husband,
Right.
Che, owned 17.9% in this conglomerate and has an estimated fortune of about 5.4 billion.
Nice.
And the court ordered him to pay this in cash rather than stock because he had to maintain control of the conglomerate. So
I see. Okay.
So and then they obviously closed 3.8% lower. They said following the trading. So
well, because what could happen is, if you think about it, if you liquidated that much or gave her that much stock, it would damage the value of the stock too.
Exactly.
So yeah, smart.
So the judges awarded her 1/3 of the couple's marital property after finding that she contributed to preserving and increasing the family's wealth during the marriage. So I guess in South Korea, you need that sort of a finding to get some sort of award, which, is very interesting. Now, this reminded me of our own tech billionaire that we love to talk about in our show here, Mr. One and Only Jeff Bezos, the Dr. Doom, so to speak, and how his cool guy impression that we always like to riff on. So he, if my memory serves me right, or hey, I should say his ex-wife, Mackenzie.
Still a nerd.
As much as he tries to be cool.
I mean, he's got a lot more money than me, but he cannot escape being a big nerd. There's no, I don't care how much TRT you're on. I don't care how buff you are, what outfits you wear. He is still a big nerd, and you can tell.
Well, he gave Mackenzie Bezos 4% of Amazon at the time, which was worth 38-point-something billion dollars. So
that's just phenomenal.
It's mind-boggling, astronomical number, 38 billion, which I think is still the largest award in the world, if I'm not mistaken. So very interesting stuff coming out of South Korea here. This is their largest one. So yeah, if anything changes, it says, either side may appeal the ruling. We'll follow up. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So. All right. So yeah, it is interesting. And the Bezos thing, of course, is interesting because, it's his first marriage. He'd been married a long time. It's very similar in this situation. Apparently no prenup. We don't see any information about that. But, this is what it costs. If you're a rich guy, you're going to give up half basically, or whatever the proportion is. A third in this case. Yeah. For whatever reason. So it is an interesting story because it's so much money that it's hard to wrap your head around, And then people say, well, she doesn't need that. And we could say this a million times. I'm guessing Korean law is somewhat similar. In our case, a marriage is an equal partnership. And that term, she contributed to the growth of the estate by the wife helping out at home and supporting this guy and all the things she did in the relationship. That's her contribution. And you can argue all day long it's not worth as much money or whatever. And this similarly happened when Jack Welch, famous GE chief executive, got divorced. And part of his wife's claims were, I supported him through all of this stuff. I ran the parties at home and he had all these executives over and customers and all this stuff. And they had a very active social life. And she was his partner through all that stuff. And all that was tied to the business. So you're basically in our state in Illinois, you're equal partners, regardless of how much somebody's working or not working. So it's important to keep that in mind. So
right, exactly. Well said.
Let's
so we've got Jelly Roll.
Yeah, so this is about Jelly Roll. This is from Y Entertainment, and with all the links will be in the show notes. Jelly Roll and Bunny XO's seemingly smooth divorce just veered down a rocky path. Who could have thought that this would happen? Who could have thunk it? It was going so well for the first few weeks.
What were they saying? They were saying they were best friends?
They're best friends, and they were going to work on co-parenting together, and they had the good public announcement on social media. And I quote the article, sadly, it now seems that Jelly Roll and Bunny XO's separation may not be as smooth sailing as everyone thought. In an unexpected twist, now I contest the use of the word unexpected. I challenge it. The former spouses appear to have severed ties on social media after finalizing their divorce earlier this month. The exes no longer follow each other, which is today's version of shunning, is if you don't follow them anymore. Now we're all watching this. So the move comes despite the country star and podcast host insisting they parted ways on the best of terms. So then they recap in the story we talked about in the previous thing. They filed in May 2026 after a 10-year marriage. And this is a great word that I used to hear Howard Stern use back in the day when Howard was on the radio, and still great in my opinion. But he used to describe couples as canoodling, which meant they were like cuddling at like talking intensely or like romantically at some bar or club. So since their split, Bunny XO has been spotted canoodling with 24-year-old media personality Dylan Wolf at Jelly Roll's Nashville bar. Ouch. That's not cool. Despite maintaining she's single and isn't rushing to be in a relationship. Well, watch out. That canoodling might be a tell. So then they talk about this, and they keep saying nobody cheated on the other person, which makes you wonder, why do they keep saying that all the time? So in June, Jelly Roll seemingly wasted no time distancing himself from Bunny by removing her name from his Instagram bio. Oh, burn. Oh, ouch. That's rough. I mean, you get removed from the Instagram bio. Where are you going?
It's rough. Like that episode of Seinfeld where now we're going way, way back in the archives, folks. It's like where the lady he was dating had a speed dial list, and depending on how much he liked her or not, she would move you up and down on her speed dial list. Back when their speed dial was still a thing. And then he'd go to her house. He's like, wait, why am I 3? I was number 1 last week.
Yeah. So in any event, Bunny is getting lots of press lately for all kinds of things from her podcast, but lately this thing has taken a negative turn, and mostly because they're unfollowed each other. It doesn't look like they're bashing each other, but that's the Bunny Roll update for all of you guys riveted about the Jelly Roll and Bunny XO, not her real name. So let's talk about, we got another one here. This is a companion story. Jelly Roll announces he will take some time off from touring to heal after the Bunny XO divorce, because it is hard to get over parting ways with Bunny XO. Okay. He said to the crowd, because why keep this to yourself? He's 41 years old, by the way. At his concert on July 28th, he told the crowd in Salt Lake City, "This truly has been a lifetime experience for me." That's a quote. "In a couple nights, I go to Colorado Springs to do my last show for a year or two. I'm fixing to take some time off and heal." That's the country twist, as you say, I'm fixing to. "Thank you for the opportunity." Okay, great. So he's going to take a couple of years off to think it over, I guess. Most of us don't have that luxury. I had to go back to work on Monday, ladies and gentlemen, when I got divorced. And most of you probably have the same situation. This is all of 2 months after the split from Bunny XO. And so he broke his silence on the split during his tour stop in New York on June 18th. "Me and my wife are best friends. This is Jelly. We will always be best friends. We just got off the phone earlier today. Nobody cheated on nobody. That will be my best friend forever." Again, why do you keep talking about the cheating when you say nobody cheated?
I swear nobody cheated.
Yeah, there was no cheating. Again, no cheating here. Okay, then. Good. All right. So that's the scoop on Jelly and Bunny XO. We're going with more celebrity stuff. This is Celebrity Divorce Lawyer. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this is interesting, Rafe, because this hits close to home for us. You and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. So James Sexton, who you guys may see him if you guys are in the business of following divorce articles and divorce podcasts and celebs on Instagram.
In his book, he's all over.
Yeah, he's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's he's kind of got a unique appearance, even if you don't know him by name. He's all tatted up, and
he wears always wears a vest,
like a suit
vest and a dress shirt with no jacket.
Yeah, he's got a very cool look, a unique look. So Anyway, he says that he has noticed a trend with weddings where he says the bigger or more expensive the wedding is, the more likely it is that the couple is going to get divorced. And so that's really, and of course, I mean, he's not saying that all big weddings are bad, of course. That's what this article from Yahoo News says, but obviously that's not the case. But it's usually, definitely correlation, doesn't mean causation, but correlation.
Right.
So it made me think of what we talk about. We have our running list of I don't know if it's red flags. I guess red flags that we always say about weddings, like destination weddings,
Right.
very long engagements, very short engagement, a secret wedding, like we said, lavish wedding,
the unserious wedding,
the unserious wedding,
the beach wedding with like 3 of your friends, that kind of stuff.
Exactly, that kind
of
stuff.
Destination wedding.
Right. So
this plays right into it.
Exactly. So I thought this is sort of like very interesting because other people have their sort of little, I guess, cheat sheets of what they consider to be red flags as well, and so we should probably create an ongoing list of these things.
So
the Ten Commandments.
James Sexton himself is an interesting character, and it would be cool to talk to him. He came out with a book several years ago called "If You're in My Office, It's Already Too Late." Now we'll pitch my book later. I Just Want This Done, which is a far better book, by the way, James. And you and I know it is. But what was interesting about James was around the time I published my book, he came out with what I thought was another book. And then I did some homework and found out it was just retitled by his publisher. And I think it's called How to Stay in Love. Same book. I think it has like a new foreword. Same exact content. Now, I don't know, maybe there's some edits, but it looked to me like same content. And because when you look inside, it says, formerly known as, or whatever, there's a previous title published before as If You're in My Office, It's Already Too Late. Which, while a clever title, because he's a divorce lawyer, and it's a book about kind of like how to stay married, basically. To look before you leap is the concept. And it got some press when it came out around 2016 or 17. And then it sort of faded away. And then this book came out again, and he made the rounds. He was even on Lex Friedman's podcast. I don't know how he got on there, being kind of a divorce lawyer and that, but he was on that show. And then he's been on a lot of shows since. Am I jealous? Sure. I'd like to be on Lex Friedman's show or whatever, but it was pretty interesting. And what I find really interesting is he's got a huge following on social. He's very well known. He's in all these articles and stuff like that. And it's just him and a partner in a law office in New York. And I would think with that kind of distribution, he would have 20 lawyers working over there. Now that may be, he just likes to work on a few high profile cases at a time, and that's it. I don't know. That's why I'd like to talk to him, because he's an interesting guy. And I actually talked to another New York divorce lawyer, because I don't know James, and I don't know if he's good, bad, or indifferent. So I asked another veteran New York divorce lawyer who I'd met what he thought about him. And I'm not naming any names, but he said, he's actually the real deal. He's a great divorce lawyer. So this guy thought so. I was impressed. I thought, oh, that's cool. He's not just like some phony on social media, because he says a lot of glib things, and he has quick takes that are great shareable bits on social. And some of it sort of sounds like things you want to hear about, like cheating and couples and all that, and sort of like truisms. And he has a great way of telling a story, and a great way of talking about like what a client would tell him, that kind of thing. So it's shareable because it's good content. But it turns out this guy said, yeah, he's a real good lawyer, real hardworking guy. I thought, okay, cool. So James, if your people ever hear about this, you want to come on the show, I'd like to just hear about how the book came to be, why the title's changed, and talk to you about your business. Everybody else asks you the stuff they all want to talk about. Like, tell us about how to stay married, and we'll talk about your book too. Well, I'm cool with you pitching the book, but I want to know about the real law business. What are you really doing over there? What's your practice like? How did you get started in the divorce business? What do you find challenging about it? Things that nobody else asks you, I want to talk to you about. Usually you're getting talked to by these sort of celeb podcast people that aren't divorce lawyers. They don't know really about the game.
And they want the sound bites.
Yeah, they want the clever sound bites. I want more of a deep dive. And if you watch our show with Anne Marie, the show we talked about her movie. We asked her questions other people don't ask. They just go, "Oh, how's Marissa Tomei? Oh, I bet she's great." Blah blah blah. We dug into all kinds of topics about how she started the thing, how she got financed, a lot of interesting stuff. And I want to ask the things other people don't ask. I'm not going to waste your time. So if you hear this, reach out to us. It's easy to reach out. You can find, you're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Rayford Palmer. Super easy to find, the divorce lawyer. So I follow you on Twitter, on X too. So anyway, that's it for you, James. So let's see if we can talk. All right, enough about that. I think it's interesting for the audience because they know about James, and I think he's one of the very few divorce lawyers you and I would want to talk to.
Right.
And Rahul and I have talked about this before. If you're a divorce lawyer and you want to come in the show, you got to have an interesting angle. Because we're the divorce lawyers, so it's got to be something interesting
that we
for
can,
the audience.
What value can it add that we can't add ourselves?
Yeah, if you're just going to tell us like stuff about alimony and how trials work and things like that, that's, first of all, a lot of that's boring. Secondly, it's not new or different, nothing we can't cover or haven't covered. So we don't want to have you on and talk about prenups. So it's an AI and divorce law. That's not really interesting to the potential clients. And we're really, this show is really, interestingly enough, listened to by a lot of lawyers, we have found out.
Mm-hmm.
But this is supposed to be interesting to a general audience. And it won't be if we get too far in the weeds on, how we use AI in a law firm. So,
right.
Okay. Thank you for the public service announcement. Let's go into
Martha Stewart.
This is juicy. Okay. For those of you who forgot about Martha Stewart, she was called the doyenne of domesticity. And this phrase still sticks in my head. Martha Stewart built an empire telling us how to live our lives better. She was a wealthy woman, lived this fabulous East Coast lifestyle, had like a mansion and servants and this whole deal and this fancy lifestyle, and showed us about how to like be classy and make giant meals and host people and entertain, how to decorate your home. And it was mostly a way to gawk at how rich people live, her show, but there was some good content there, and she made an empire out of it. I think there was Martha Stewart Living, which is, I think it's a lifestyle brand. I think it was like literally dishes and
she got everything, yeah,
silverware and tablecloths, the whole 9 yards. She built an empire. Well, how does this relate to divorce, you ask?
Well, then she went to jail, and then she also became best friends with Snoop Dogg. So
that I did not know. That is something I forgot. Thank you.
Yes.
So she has recently come out with, there was a documentary she came out with in 2024. Now, I don't know why this came on to People magazine recently, but this is on page 6. She told People just a few days back, she was talking about her 2024 Netflix documentary, which I've not seen, full disclosure. She told People magazine Wednesday that they asked, she separated and divorced from her husband in the 80s, by the way. They were married in the 60s. She is in her 80s, right? It was in the 1980s when she got divorced. She is in her 80s now. So is her ex-husband. She was asked whether she heard from Andy after discussing their separation in her documentary called Martha, came out in 2024. The TV personality told the People only legally to remind me of divorce settlements, meaning he talked to her about legal terms in their settlement. I'm guessing he said something like, hey, you're not supposed to badmouth me, though I'm not sure. I'm just speculating. She said, which I'd never read. She added, I mean, who cared after 2 years? This is a quote from Martha. I mean, who cared after 2 years of arguing about a settlement? I still haven't read it. He's a jerk. Okay. So it's been
40
years and you're still throwing mud at this guy? Nobody knows Andy Stewart. Okay. They only know you. You made $1 zillion. You became famous. He's just like a footnote. And you're slamming this guy? What, then it gets better because I'm like, okay, I'll bite. I'm reading this thing now. Martha, 85, Andy, 87, got married in 1961, had a daughter in 65, parted ways after 30 years of marriage in 87, which Andy allegedly pushed for. Now, this gets really interesting because, hey, you call him a jerk. I want to know what's going on. Okay. He's the one I wanted the divorce, not I, she said. He was throwing me away. I was 40 years old. I was gorgeous. I was a desirous woman, but he's treating me like a castaway. Okay, well, we're not hearing from
Mm-hmm.
Andy, so don't know. Andy, if you want to talk to us, I'll give you a platform. So then she says, he treated me really badly, and I, in return, I guess I treated him badly. You don't say. Well, okay. Additionally, now this is mysterious to me. Additionally, there was infidelity on both ends of the relationship, with Martha alleging that her ex-husband was running off with people, quote unquote. I didn't go run off with people, she claimed. I like the word claimed here in the article. This is me quoting. I always said I was a swan, and like all swans, they are monogamous. And I thought monogamy was admirable. I did. I thought it was admirable, but it turned out it didn't save a marriage. Okay, but she admitted, however, to having also cheated on Andy. Explaining how she kissed a stranger while on their honeymoon in Italy. I met this very handsome guy, she said in the documentary. He didn't know I was married. He was emotional. I was emotional. It was an emotional place. And then she admitted she had a very brief affair with a very attractive Irish man while working as a stockbroker in New York early in their marriage. Okay. She then says, I don't think Andy ever knew about that. It was nothing. It was nothing. In terms of I would never have broken up a marriage for it, it was nothing. It was like the kiss in the cathedral. So it's like, what? Okay. And so and Andy actually did speak up here. Okay. They buried the lead. Andy and his third wife, okay, so he's lucky in love too, called out Martha for publicly relitigating the marriage while he quietly moved on forward with his life. Yes. Well, she wanted to come out with a documentary and put some sauce in there. So there you go. But, that doesn't really make you look good to admit, oh, yeah, there's infidelity, but it's just a little thing. And, he ran off with women. Oh, okay. Anyway.
That's still, it's like the more I think about this guy, it's like Norm Macdonald says, the more I think he's a real jerk,
Yeah, like, come on. Like, have a little, you can tell the truth in your documentary or whatever, about your life, but calling him a jerk is really, I'm sorry, that is not cool at this point. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. So tell us about, speaking of celebs, we got a big one here.
We got more. Yes.
Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt divorce update. Just when you thought it was safe to go back near the water, we have more.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we've previously talked about their continued divorce fightings with like this, vineyard in France or somewhere in Europe, and, some chateau or something. So we've been talking about all kinds of stuff, still litigating some of those issues. And now this article from Fox News basically says Angelina Jolie achieves complete cutting of ties between kids and Brad Pitt as they turn 18. So essentially, as these kids turn 18, they're cutting off the hyphenated last name Pitt from their names. So the last 2 just did it too. So 5 of Brad Pitt's children have distanced themselves by dropping his surname, with 3 making the change legally. So they all just go by, blah, 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 Jolie. And right. So, they have 6 children together: Maddox, Zahara, Shiloh, Pax, Knox, and Vivian. And so the twins, Knox and Vivian, just became 18, I guess, on July 12th. So a couple weeks ago. And so because they're no longer under the court's jurisdiction, the article says they went ahead and changed their name legally. So
and they didn't let the grass grow under their feet, did they?
Nope, exactly. Just over a week after turning 18, the petition was filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court with the reason for the name change noted as personal, per the outlet, with a hearing scheduled for November 2nd. So they are, and so this kind of obviously this happened. The bigger picture is, well, there's obviously alienation going on here. We don't know how it happened, who did it, who the culprit is. Is this something that the kids kept hearing from one parent about the other parent to the point where they just decided to sort of internalize that? Or is it just the way that parent acted towards the kids that they said, I want nothing to do with you? So we'll never know. We'll never find out. But it's unfortunate. But, such is what happens sometimes.
Yeah, the footnote with this is The ultimate verdict on whether you're a good parent or not in a divorce is rendered by the children once they reach adult age. I guess this is the verdict about your parenting, whether you're divorced or happily married, because the kids will stop showing up and they can legally change your name and do whatever else. So this is pretty harsh medicine because they did not wait 1 second to change their name and get rid of Pitt off of their last name. And that's a name that has a lot of cachet, obviously, in Hollywood. Jolie has certainly quite a bit too. But, you know, Brad Pitt is a megastar. And dissing him by taking his name, going to the trouble of legally changing your name, that is quite the rebuke for him as their parent. And if I was a father and my children changed their name to my ex-wife's last name, I would be humiliated and embarrassed. And that's just how I am. I'm not commenting on what Brad did as a parent or didn't do. And like Rahul said, it could have been any number of things. But if all these children are doing it, that's not a good sign, in my opinion. And what this means is be good to your kids, treat them well when you get divorced, and realize that a parenting agreement is just a piece of paper. And the minute that parenting agreement is void, which is when the kid turns 18, they're going to do whatever they want to do, and they're going to vote with their feet. If you've taken care of them and they like you, they will spend time with you. If they don't, they're going to disappear and not see you again.
They don't stop being your kids at 18, basically.
Yeah. And I've seen this happen in real divorce cases where it's terrible. The one parent demands the children show up, follow the schedule. They litigate it. They go after the other parent. And for whatever reason, the kids don't want to be with them. And instead of trying to figure out what that issue is and figure out why they don't want to be with them and fix that, they instead go to the court and say, make them come over here. And that works till they reach about teenage age. And then they just text somebody on their phone, and their friend picks them up, and they leave your house and they go back to mom or dad's, or they just stop spending time with you, or they're hell on wheels when they're with you. So if you want to live a nightmare, treat your kids poorly and push around your ex-spouse and them with court orders, and just see what happens when they're 18 and it doesn't matter anymore and you have no power and they don't show up anymore. It's going to be like Cats in the Cradle time, if you know that song. It's pretty sad. So that's what I thought of when I saw this story. But okay, let's talk. This is great. This is Emily Rossum, a star I did not know. Shameless star Emily Rossum reveals a secret marriage at 21. I'm like, okay, after boyfriend's alleged shocking ultimatum. Okay, I had to read this. I was compelled because I got to hear, I got to hear about this. Shameless star Emily Rossum admitted, this is me quoting the story in Fox News Entertainment. Lauren Overholtz wrote this, so full credit, and the link's in the notes. Shameless star Emily Rossum admitted she ignored a glaring red flags when an alleged ultimatum from her then boyfriend led to a rushed secret wedding. She admitted what did we say about that? Rushed wedding.
That's one of them.
Secret, number 2. Also apparently not in the country, maybe in Mexico, not clear. And she was interviewed on the podcast.
The trifecta.
Exactly. She was hard-hit on the hard-hitting podcast, Call Her Daddy. She was, which is a little bigger than
Cooper.
this. Alex Cooper, a little bigger than this pod, but hey, come on.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we're doing more serious acts of journalism here. Kept the wedding a secret. Marriage ultimatum at 21. Kept the wedding a secret. Was already thinking about a divorce before saying I do. Okay, a little premarital advice from your favorite divorce lawyer. And that is, if you're thinking about divorce before you're getting married, don't get married. Please don't get married. Or at least
we want prenup.
Get yourself a prenup. But if you're thinking about getting divorced before you get married, you're probably in for a rough ride, and I'd recommend not doing it. So she was dating Interscope music executive Justin Siegel for a few months after working together on her first album, Inside Out. Apparently she's a musician too. She said the whirlwind decision came during one of the most emotionally vulnerable periods of her life. And you say, Rafe,
what could it be?
What emotionally vulnerable period of her life was going on? Well, I will tell you because the story says, facing 6 months away in Mexico to film Dragon Ball Evolution, not nominated for any Oscars, just spoiler alert. For you Dragon Ball fans, I will not ruin the ending. She recalled how the alleged ultimatum from Siegel in 2008, by the way, this is from 2008. Don't know why we're talking about this now, but okay, it's on Call Her Daddy. Quickly escalated into a marriage. Yes, a proposal can escalate into a marriage. That is a logical result of a proposal if one agrees to said proposal.
Right.
She says it was driven by fear rather than love. So I remember the day I was going away to make the movie, he said something to me like, quote, I don't know if the relationship is going to survive the distance. So maybe like we should break up or get married, she claimed. Oh, good. That sounds great. So let's choose the get married one. That'll make sure we stay together. Looking back, she ignored what she now sees as glaring warning signs. Really? They were glaring then. Convincing herself at 21, a divorce would be simple if the marriage didn't work out. I thought to myself, and now here, maybe this is more of the emotional. I was coming off 2 really rough heartbreaks. Okay, we don't know about that. Then she says, within a couple days, the couple quietly tied the knot in an impromptu ceremony. She described as anything but romantic. Okay, great. Another bad sign. She said, rather than celebrating it, she kept the marriage hidden. Another red flag.
Another red flag. Yeah, she's just, you know what? We could just take this list and put it out to our list. She's hit all of them.
So she says her instincts proved to be correct, and that you'll love this. The actress said the relationship continued to unravel while she spent 6 months filming in Mexico, Dragon Ball Evolution, for those of you who didn't catch earlier part of the story. Her husband didn't even visit. She says, it's also not that long of a flight. I don't know. Like everyone's just going, people go to Mexico for the weekend.
Yes, that is true.
Do, including me. She said it was obvious the marriage had no future when she got back. This is so incredible. She had to tell her, she gets back and then tells her mom she has to break up with the guy and get a lawyer. Unbelievable. Now, you might say, Rafe, is that the shortest marriage you've ever heard of? I say, no, sir, and ma'am, it is not. And your next question is, pray tell, Rayford Dalton Palmer, best-selling divorce author of the greatest divorce book ever written. I'm sure you said that, or you would.
I thought it anyway, you know.
How long was the shortest marriage you've ever dealt with? Well, I'll tell you. Early in my career, I was working in this law firm in Schaumburg, Illinois, across from the Woodfield Mall. For those of you, shout out to Schaumburg and Woodfield.
Northwest suburbs.
Across from the Irish pub that used to be there. And this lady came in and talked to me, and she says, I want to get a divorce. And I, of course, asked for, and by the way, it's like July, call it July 7th, right? And I'm like, oh, what's your date of marriage? And I'm taking notes. She says June 23rd, you know, literally like 2 weeks
Almost
ago.
made it 2 weeks. Almost made it 2
okay,
weeks.
2 weeks in a few days. And I said, excuse me? I said, did you say that, you know, she's like, yes, June 20, whatever. I'm writing it down. I said, okay, I got to ask. I put my pen down. What's going on here? She says, well, we got married and I should have, you know, we got married and I should have known better because he cheated on me when we were dating. And I thought when we got engaged, it would be better. We got engaged and he cheated on me. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He cheated on her on the honeymoon. Yes, that's correct. At the honeymoon place where people are supposed to be so in love. And it was like Sandals or something, you know, in the grill where it's like couples only. The guy cheats on her. By the way, don't even know how that's possible because usually people are glommed onto each other at these things, at these places. So he cheats on her on the honeymoon. So they got married, literally 2-week honeymoon. She gets back and 2 days later, she's in my office. That is the shortest marriage I've ever seen. Rahul, do you have anything to top that?
I don't think I have anything to top that. I've seen marriages that are 3 months long, but not
That's pretty awesome.
2 weeks long.
So I will say one final note on that. I had a similar call from somebody who had been married less than a month. And they called, this might have been the same person, but around that time period, somebody called and said, is there like a period, like a time period where, you know, within like 30 days, if I don't want to stay married, I can just like get it undone. And I said, well, what, like a money back guarantee? You know, like there is no, it's not like a gym membership, you know, like in Illinois, there is literally like 2 days or 3 days you can go back and rescind a gym membership. There's a couple consumer things like that. And I said, no, there's no like do-over thing where you just file a piece of paper and say, you're just as married as somebody that's married 20 years. And this person was shocked. She said, but I went out now. I'm like, okay, well, you're talking to the right guy, but you have to go through a grown-up divorce like everybody else. So that's a little footnote
That's
for
funny.
you. So next, we got to talk about this one. This is okay. Next is Christy Brinkley. And before you launch into this, let me just tell my Christy Brinkley story. I have a very short Christy Brinkley story.
Nice. That's
I am a
great.
Gen X guy. Okay. Christy Brinkley's a Gen X star. She was famously married to Billy Joel, who was a
Yep.
big rock star, music pop star back in the day. In the 80s, he was huge. Multiple albums, best, you know, top hits, all that stuff. And she famously married him, and he's not an attractive man. No hate meant for Billy Joel. He's an amazing singer, but he's a kind of scruffy looking guy. And I don't think he would say he's an attractive guy. She's obviously a supermodel, which will prove something we're about to talk about in our dating segment,
Yes, that's a
which will
great-
tie in later.
Great
I am
segue.
teasing and pleasing. This is why we're broadcast professionals. We can link all this stuff up for you
Yeah.
guys. So Billy famously marries her, and there's a song called Uptown Girl that he wrote for her, which kind of talks about their relationship. It's a great song. And and that ties into the story too, right, Rahul? Because there's a little tidbit in the story about that term.
Mhm.
Anyway, it was like the big celebrity news was the tough guy musician, used to be a piano man, another great song by him, but he actually started out famously in piano bars. And but they got married, and it's like a whirlwind, you know, it's a Cinderella story, or maybe reverse Cinderella story. They have this great relationship. They have a child together, Alexa Ray. And here's where my tie-in is. 1987, summer 1987, young Rafe Palmer, before he starts college, is touring the Soviet Union. It was still the Soviet Union in 1987. Gorbachev was the boss. And it was the time of glasnost and perestroika. And at that time, they had this people-to-people program where it was a cultural exchange between the Soviet Union and the United States. And students, high school students from the USSR, toured the United States, and US students toured the Soviet Union for the first time. We spent a month, toured the entire USSR. We could not go to what is now Ukraine, what was then part of the Soviet Union. We couldn't go to Kyiv, then known as Kiev, because of Chernobyl, which had blown up, and the reactor had all this poisonous gas across Ukraine, of course. So we had to avoid that. But we went all over the former Soviet Union. I went everywhere from Riga in Latvia to what was called Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, Moscow, and down to Baku in Azerbaijan. It was a really amazing trip. Anyway, in Leningrad, which is what it was called then, there was very old school back then. No TV, no cable TV, no internet, no McDonald's. It's a pretty dreary place. Leningrad's actually a beautiful city, very Western looking city. But Billy Joel was touring the Soviet Union for the first time that a Western pop star had toured the USSR since the Beatles in 1967. So it was a huge deal in the Soviet Union. And it was a big deal in the US. And we knew about the tour, and guess what? He was in St. Petersburg when we were going to be there.
Nice.
Coincidentally, I traded two pairs of jeans or something like that for a ticket to see him at the Sports Palast, like Sportpalast, which is like basically a hockey rink where he was playing. And he had an amazing concert. There was an album that came out called Koncert. If I'm mispronouncing the Russian, I apologize. But Koncert was a concert album recorded on that tour. And it was an amazing show from all of his hits and his stuff that showed up, I think, a little later on Stormfront, maybe a later album. I was a big fan. Anyway, at the end, we stayed. The Russians, the Soviets, all like, they're mostly Russians there because we're in Leningrad. They left orderly at the end, and they would sit and politely like applaud after every song. And we're like jumping up and down because it's a rock show and we're Americans. And then at the end, they all leave and we stay thinking, oh, you know, like maybe they'll come out for an encore. Well, the Russians didn't bother. They all left. We're standing around and Billy comes back out and Christy Brinkley comes out with Alexa Ray, the baby. And then we got to say hi and meet him. I had a picture. I don't know what happened to it. Back then it was prints. It wasn't on a phone. It was literally a camera. So for 2 seconds, we said hi, and that was it. But that's my claim to fame and actually meeting Christy Brinkley for 2 seconds. But that's
cool.
it. So that's my story. Isn't that kind of cool, right?
That's really cool. Yeah, that's an awesome experience too. Yeah,
and
that's great.
seeing that show there and seeing how it blew away them, and they loved the show as much as we did, you could tell. And the Russian people, I know now they're locked in a war with Ukraine, and it's a bitter situation. I can say back then, the people that we met, and we met a lot of Soviet students who were like our age, college and high school students, they really had no hate for the United States. And back then there was a lot of anti-US propaganda because it was the Soviet Union. And there were
That's when Rocky IV,
posters.
is that when Rocky IV came out, or is that before that?
Right around when Rocky IV was out. And, you know, 1986 was peak Cold War with, you know,
That's right.
Reagan and all that. So it was an interesting, very interesting time to go. And it obviously made a big impression on me. So
yeah, that's really cool.
that's my Soviet Union story. And
That's your Christy Brinkley Soviet Union story.
Yep. And I still remember it. So
here in this story
so
with
now,
Christy
the
Brinkley.
story
So
about
now,
Christy,
yes.
what are we talking about?
So she, as you kind of alluded to, says that she's rethinking quote unquote soulmates after 4 marriages. This is a FoxNews.com article. All credit to Fox News.
Okay, wait. You asked for this, so you're getting it.
Fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Thank you, President
Yes,
Bush.
exactly. So she's been married to 4. You said Billy Joel. Now he was number 2.
Billy Joel.
Jean-Francois Allot was number 1.
And the third husband is an interesting story.
Richard Taubman. And number 4 is Peter Cook.
Okay.
So yeah, go
so
ahead.
Let me just mention a brief story, unless you want to tell the story about how Billy Joel got kicked to the curb.
No, you can go ahead. I mean, I think that's part of the whole, like, her thing about her memoir called Uptown Girl and how she talks about. Yeah, go ahead. No, absolutely.
So famously, their marriage ended when Christy Brinkley was involved in I should look this up. Christy Brinkley, she was involved in a helicopter crash, which is a crazy story. Yeah, here it is. Okay. She was in a helicopter crash in April 1, 1994 during a heli skiing trip near Telluride, Colorado. By the way, if you're into that, that's pretty wild stuff because they fly you up to like backcountry and you go in these back bowls and all this stuff that's inaccessible. And you got to know what you're doing for heli skiing because it can trigger avalanches and stuff. Also, the helicopter, you know, helicopter's built to spin itself apart. So helicopter came out of the sky after suffering mechanical failure, as they might do, and they auto rotated in. For those of you helicopter pilots out there, you know that's not easy stuff. That there's residual energy in the rotors, which, if a pilot knows what they're doing, can prevent everybody from getting killed by carefully flying the aircraft even when the engine is out. So the helicopter fell out of the sky, crashed during the skiing trip. 6 people on board, including Brinkley, actress Sandra Will Carradine, I'm guessing related to one of there's a guy named Carradine, I remember. Her 11-year-old son, Cade, developer Ricky Taubman, there he is, right? That's the guy you mentioned. A ski guide, and Tom Sharp. Okay, she sustained a broken left wrist, deep hip joint trauma that caused chronic pain for decades. She ended up having hip replacement. So no joke or anything about that. A very serious accident. At the time, Brinkley's marriage to Billy Joel was already under strain, reportedly. Joel rushed to her side in Colorado following the news. He basically, this guy Taubman was kind of like the hero figure on this crash.
Yep.
And he it sort of swept her off her feet because he was like macho. And I mean, to give the guy credit, and I give this guy credit where he's due, they're in this bad situation out there in the wilderness, and he did act in a heroic manner. But she saw this and was like, I remember reading about it back then, and apparently it like swept her off her feet, and it was kind of like the fatal blow to her marriage with Billy Joel.
Right.
So that's the story about her and Taubman, which, guys, here's the tip. Don't let your supermodel wife, here's the lesson to learn. Don't let your supermodel wife go on heli skiing trips. Okay, I'm just saying. All right, there you go. I think that isn't that the lesson learned.
Or do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with her trainer, and then with like Tom Brady and Gisele Bundchen. But anyway,
Brother,
yes, I had a case with a tennis pro. By the way,
there you go. That happens,
the other one is the pickleball thing. If you're bringing it more current, or exactly. Padel if you're into the latest and greatest.
Right. So with we wanted to mention this story because it was, the whole soulmate thing. It seems it's a little funny. It's I think it's a plug for her memoir. She's like, soulmates doesn't, in my mind, mean it's forever. I think it can be transformative, where you can have soulmates and you can have several soulmates and they don't last forever. She's like, she liked all her husbands previously. She said then Billy Joel loved, I think in the article says something about how he was, alcohol was his side piece essentially. Uh-oh. And then for Taubman, she said he loved her money more than her, things like that. So there's all kinds of stuff in there. So I think it was just a plug for her, where she, and then, the title or the article's headline is basically soulmates don't last forever, I guess. And
one of the rules on exactly. One of the rules on this podcast is third time, it's probably you. Fourth time, it's definitely you. So first divorce, it's them. Okay, I'll believe you. Second time, I'm not so sure. Third time, it's definitely you. Either you don't know how to pick them, or you're not marriage material. Fourth time, you're crazy. And
it's like Michael Scott, right?
Yeah,
Michael Scott from The Office is like, fool me once, he's like strike one. Fool me twice, strike three.
Yeah, exactly. So fourth time, who's marrying you the fourth time? Number one, when you gotta wonder. But
you also think, who doesn't want to marry Christy Brinkley? I guess so.
True. One thing I will say, this is sage wisdom from your buddy here. You're not looking for a soulmate. That's like a romantic notion that you've got to look for somebody who's going to be your companion, your friend, your romantic partner for a long time. And this soulmate stuff is kind of like magical talk.
You're looking for archetypes, and then you see different people with different archetypes you like, and then you suddenly figure out that's your soulmate. But you have little components of pieces in different people that you're going to start getting attached to.
Yeah, right. And it's like talking like that is almost like fantastical thinking, like, oh, they're my soulmate. Well, I think there's a number of people that are right for a certain person out there, and they, if it works well, they grow together and adjust to each other, kind of like two gears finally meshing. Mm-hmm. And then they continue to adjust over time as needs change and things occur. So this soulmate thing is like, what it sounds like is once I don't feel this magic anymore, I'm going to dump you.
Right.
It's got to be this magical feeling all the time. And then when that's gone, which inevitably in any relationship that gets long-term, the bloom will be somewhat off the rose. But if it's good, if the fundamentals are there, it will return from time to time in enough quantity to make you want to stay in the game. It's like playing golf or any sport like that that's challenging. There'll be enough good holes, there'll be enough good playing that you want to play again.
Yep.
And if it's all bad, you're not going to play the game again. If you have a couple good experiences and continuously some good stuff comes up, you're going to stay in it. Mm-hmm. But if you think like they got to be my soulmate and they fall out of that category when something goes sideways, you're never going to be happy.
You're not setting yourself for success, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like that lady in Indian Matchmaking, that show that's on Netflix, from way back. She's like, you're never going to find, she's like, she's famous for like showing people like their like dating resume or whatever. She's like, all right, what do you like? He's like, oh, I want all this. She's like, I'm gonna give you like, 70. You're gonna get 78% of what you want. She's like,
Right.
that's where you want to be. No one gets 100%, and it's not realistic. You got to make it happen with 78%. You're not gonna like everything, but you'll make it work.
Perfect segue to the last segment after we do the listener question.
Yeah, maybe we'll skip the listener question. I think we're getting,
Yeah.
we're close to an hour, so let's just skip that. We'll save it for the next week's listener. You'll have to wait for another week.
Yeah, this one is great. So this ties right in, Rahul. We were talking about this a little earlier.
Mhm.
This is an article from April in Elle magazine by Olivia Petter. My guess is Olivia is under 30 years old.
You guys will hear why here in a
I
second.
will preface, or as Michael Scott says, preface this by
Preface.
saying, yeah, is the title. The viral 6'7" dating trend wants you to settle for
6'7".
less. By the way, yeah, this isn't the 6'7" your 10-year-old kid's annoying you about or used to. The 6'7" dating trend wants you to settle for less. Here's why dating down never works. Another trend gains momentum. Another heart is broken is the subtitle. And it basically says, here's the opening. If you're struggling on the dating scene, it's because everyone you fancy is too hot. That might sound like bizarre doublethink imparted by a drunken relative at a wedding. It actually sounds like something my dad told me in high school. But actually, it's the latest advice being espoused online as part of a new trend. And we know there's these dating trends, which is really just some shareable stuff going viral on social. And really nothing new under the sun exists in love and romance, except as Rahul and I agreed before the show, there are some things where things are genuinely different, like people being glued to their phones during dates and things
Right.
of that nature, where
Mhm.
there
Bad
are
sign.
some dating apps, So, and we'll get into a little bit of that. So the 6'7" rule encourages single people to date those who are considered to be mid-range in terms of their attractiveness, a 6 or 7 out of 10. And I'll skip all the rest of the stuff in the article. It's actually worth reading. The person tries to make a point saying, she says, this doesn't sound familiar, like Shrekking, which we talked about in a previous show, which is like, do you ever, which ties into the old song, if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, make an ugly woman your wife. That was an old gag. And literally there's a song that was kind of famous that said that. So dating somebody less attractive than yourself because they'll be into you. That's the angle. And then it says it's impossible to pinpoint where it's from. And then the person argues against it. So I'll just say one line. If we're all going to rate romantic partners out of 10, surely we want the people we date to be a 10. Okay. That's really her premise. And then
don't call me Shirley, right?
And don't call me Shirley, exactly. And then at the end, she says, I won't be looking for a 6 or 7. I think we all deserve to be with a 10. More importantly, we all deserve to be seen as a 10 by our partners. Otherwise, I'm not sure there's much point to dating at all. We might as well join a cat commune, which doesn't sound too bad. Okay, actually, it is bad. But we'll dig into this a little bit. So we just talked, first of all, 6s and 7s marry 10s in life. It happens. There is all kinds of research showing the most successful couples are kind of close in line, that a 6 with a 6 is probably the happiest, or one notch up and down. And remember, folks, I hate to tell you this, but a guy 6 is different than a lady 6 because women and men value different things. And I don't need to go over that whole litany right now. But what has happened, though, I guarantee this lady's under 30. Because those 6, 7 guys start looking better and better as you get older. Because it's like a game of musical chairs and the seats start getting taken up.
Yep.
The truth is, there is a fallacy that there's a 10 out there for everybody. First of all, people overrate themselves. And there's all kinds of zeitgeist stuff out there saying women tend to do this more than guys. I think that tends to be true. More women think they're 8, 9, 10. More guys are very realistic about where they stand. And a lot of guys these days in the sort of zeitgeist express frustration that girls they think would be sort of in their league are chasing 9 and 10 guys.
Act like they're out of their league.
Yeah. And the problem with the whole short king thing, the girls ignoring the guys under 6 feet tall, which of course are the vast majority of men, even though they're successful, even though they might be even attractive, but they want a guy that's 6 feet tall. And they said, 6'5" trust fund, blue eyes, that was a
That
social
song
media.
or whatever. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's become a little bit of a joke, but it's because the dating apps have caused these standards to be out of sight. And we've talked about this before. Also, the illusion of plenty. That when you look at these dating apps, it looks like there's zillions of these guys that are very attractive, that will chat with people. So there's an illusion that these people will be available as a mate. And either distance-wise, they're not, or the 910 has their pick of the litter, so to speak. So they're not, they're going to mess with these people, but not be the marrying type. So all that to say, aiming your sights a little lower is a very realistic and smart move. You may find the perfect person for you. It doesn't mean date somebody you think is ugly, unless they're a billionaire. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean settling. It means being realistic. Are you really a 10? Are you? If you and your mom are saying so, maybe ask some friend you can trust, or that guy friend, okay?
Yeah.
Now, he may not even tell you because he doesn't want you to get mad at him. But the truth is, start with being realistic about your chances and adjust your sights appropriately. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing dreams and full of frustration. My story in high school, my dad told me to ask her if I wanted to date girls, ask people out. So I went around asking every girl out in the school that I thought was cute, including people 2 grades older than me and all this. And it came back, I was all frustrated, and I said, this isn't working. You said I just needed to put myself out there. And I put myself out there all over the place, and it wasn't working. And he laughed when I described, he said, what happened? I told him the story. And he says, well, you can't ask out the senior cheerleader girl. She's not going to date a freshman. You got to lower your sights a little bit. How about a girl who's like in your class, who knows you already? Maybe some girl laughed at one of your jokes during class. And he said something like, don't ask a model out first, ask somebody that's more your speed or something. And I said, okay, I'll try that. And I asked a couple girls to go to homecoming, and one girl said yes. And I had a great time. We didn't really date, but I had a lot of fun, and I got out there and I was at least having a good time. And one thing my dad said, this is the corollary to this: when you're out there dating somebody, you become more attractive to other people, in this case, women or girls, because they see that you're fun, that you're in circulation, and you're in demand. So when you're too choosy, you're not out there.
Nobody wants to be with nobody that nobody wants to be with.
Yeah, it's like nobody wants nobody that nobody sent, was the old Chicago line.
Yep, exactly.
Nobody
That's
wants
exactly
nobody
right.
nobody sent. So if you have to build your somebody status by starting with the beginnings. And that's my thing on this. This is a young lady who might be a 10. I don't know. I haven't looked her up. Or hasn't really had to deal. So I'd like to hear from somebody who's 35 or 40 who played this game a little too long and has gotten burned.
Yep.
So, because that dude who's 45 and has money, he's chasing 29-year-old girls, young women. I don't care what you say. You can say you don't like it. You can say it's not right. These are just facts. And, you can hate it, but don't hate the player, hate the game. Rahul,
Right.
What do you say about all this?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's just, it's like you said, it's a problem of the plenty. You kind of, you live in your little bubble, and you think everybody, just because you have 4 friends who are all 10s, everybody's a 10 and everybody should be with a 10. It's like, you got to step away. It's very insular that way. And so, everyone can't have 10s. Everyone can't be a millionaire in the world. You've got to have different people doing different things. That's just how society works.
Well, you're going to be happy with a guy that appreciates you.
Exactly. And there's more to that than that. Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, or vice versa, a woman that appreciates you. And whenever your number is way out of line, there's a tremendous amount of strain in that relationship. There's a power imbalance, and everybody knows it's true. People don't like to talk about it, but we all know a couple where, or their number changed. That's even worse. When their numbers were the same, and then somebody's number changed. They lost their job. They whatever.
They started working out like crazy, and they got in good shape.
So
They
they
took care of
went
their,
they,
yeah.
they went
They
up
went
a couple
up.
numbers, or
Yeah.
the other one went down a couple numbers, and
Yeah.
that's tremendous strain in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
so the happiest couples you probably know, when you look at them and you think about them, yeah, they're a good match. They're probably a good match in kind of like many ways.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind
Not
of in
just-
the same
yeah,
socioeconomic background. Their looks are about right. Like you can see that when we say, oh, I can see them together.
Yep.
I can picture them together. What you're saying is they're kind of in the same league.
Yep. They're on
When
the
you-
same bandwidth.
Yeah. You know, when you see a supermodel with an ugly guy, you assume the guy's a rock star because that's the only way that's working. Like Rick Ocasek, rest in peace. You know, with Paulina, that's an older reference lost on younger viewers. Anyway, I think we said enough, but
yeah.
thanks for that story. It was a good one. Rahul, how can people find you online?
You can find me at Chicago Divorce, and you can also find me on LinkedIn and on our website.
Yeah, check us out, stgdivorcelaw.com. That's stgdivorcelaw.com. This show is sponsored by STG Divorce Law. We help smart, successful people get divorced in Chicagoland since 1994, 30 plus years growing. We've added 2 more lawyers. Our firm is blowing up in a good way. Check us out, stglawfirm.com. We're highly ranked. If you search our firm on any of your favorite chatbots, just check out Top Divorce Lawyers Illinois, Top Divorce Lawyers Chicago. We're typically in the top 5 in the whole state and in Chicago. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Check us out. I can be found at Rayford Palmer on most socials. RAIFORD PALMER. That's the name they gave me. So check it out. We appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, rate us, please. Rank us. Give us 5 hearts, 5 stars, whatever it is. Tell your friends. Tell your mom. Moms love the show. And spread the word, because we do this for you at no charge. And all we ask for you is to review, like, comment, and share. Everybody have a great weekend. We love you out there. The recorded show from previous will drop tomorrow, and this recording drops in a week. Thanks very much. Check out our previous episodes also. Have a good one.